I'd have had people talking to me when I was 18 to 24 years old, my career might have went in a different direction. I might have knew more, might have been able to do more and be a better pitcher. But with that being said, through this presentation, we're going to talk, your idea of what I'm going to talk about is probably not even close to what I'm actually going to talk about, because I'm going to talk a lot about the mental aspect of pitching. And it's not about pitch calling or sequencing or how to hold or throw a certain pitch. It's going to be a lot about the preparation to become the best pitcher you can be. So right off the bat here, I want to thank Scott Emerson, the Oakland A's pitching coach. A lot of this stuff is from him, not necessarily word for word, but there's a lot of information that I loved what he talked about in the webinar we did a couple weeks ago. And Rick Cribb, former pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles from my hometown, not from my hometown, but he's from Pittsburgh. He's a local boy here in Baltimore now, and there's some stuff here in the throwing programs that comes directly from the Baltimore Orioles. We could take that as a good thing or bad thing because they have a lot of arm injuries, but we'll get to that. Go ahead to the next slide there. I put this on here for a reason. There's some amazing people on this, take away me, amazing ball players on this slide right here. And I had the luxury to learn and build relationships with each and every one of them. And there's a couple guys here, like Sparky Anderson. A lot of you guys know him. When I was with the Tigers, I was getting ready to pitch in a big league game in spring training. And Sparky Anderson, in different words that I'm going to use, he said, "Go out there and throw the heck out of it, Pierce." I didn't know what that meant until probably 20 years later. And what he was saying, he didn't really want me to go out there and throw the heck out of it because that's how I pitched. He wanted me to learn how to pitch. And that's kind of what we want to give you an idea on today, is how to approach that and become a better pitcher. There's a lot of good information here. And I could tell you, out of those players and coaches on that board right there, there aren't many of them that ever talked about mechanics or how hard I threw or they threw. We talked baseball. And the greatest thing about baseball is building a network, especially coaching baseball, building a network of coaches, because I'm forever listening, I'm so lucky to be a part of this organization and get to talk with Christian and learn from him, and Zach, and guys like Rick Gruerson and Bill Gowdy and Curtis and Mike and Mark. We're always talking baseball and learning from one another. There's never a time to where I think I know everything. I'm always looking to learn. I'm always changing my approach and trying to look for the best way possible to get through to the young players to make them the best they can be. Go ahead. So this is my definition of pitching. It's the act. I call it an art. It's the art of throwing a baseball with the intent to create speed and movement to deceive a hitter to ultimately get him out. Each pitch in the sequence has its own purpose. If you're not on the mound with that thought process in your head, you're throwing. Okay, you're not pitching. And we're going to get a lot into understanding command and what command is and throwing strikes. And we're going to talk a lot about that and how to establish yourself on the mound with presence, what effort level are you pitching. And we're going to get to a lot of this stuff later. Zach, jump in anytime. Unmute yourself and feel free to add whatever at any time. Zach, I really want you to add here, nutrition. We had a great webinar the other night with Dawn talking nutrition. If you didn't see it, you need to get on there and listen to it. There's a lot of information, and at every level, the young guys, right here, I talk about late night meal choices. I'm not going to tell you what to eat. I'm not a nutritionalist, but they're important. Why? A big leaguer gets done with a game at 11:30, 12 o'clock, they're getting home, and they need to eat. They need to get some nourishment in their body. Proper meal choices, game time meal choices. But it's essential to your development. And if you're not worried about your nutrition intake throughout the course of a season, over season after season, you're going to break down. And by the time you get to the elite levels, you're not going to be performing at the top. Zach or Christian, if you want to add to this about what you all did in college, what I ate 35 years ago when I was playing was pizza and maybe a beer if I was old enough. But what did you guys eat?
Well, I'm going to speak for Zach because he's about to lie to you guys. 75% of his calories comes from DiGiorno pizza. I promise you that. So that's a great point because me and Zach are complete opposites. I was always a bigger kid. I didn't have to eat a lot. I had to eat healthy to stay athletic. Zach was a body type that he could just he could eat a ton of calories and he was still going to be really, really skinny. So our approach to nutrition was definitely a lot different. My nutrition, and I'm sad to say, wasn't great. I would say it was good, maybe above average. But maybe because I was learning about nutrition in school every day, I got tired of it by the time I got home from studying at 10:30 at night every night.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing, and Zach can speak to this too, is timing. What you're eating before you work out, what you're eating after you work out, or before you play, after you play, is incredibly important. So, Zach, what kind of things were you doing before or after workouts or games?
He needs unmuted.
Oh, I thought he was unmuted. Hold on. Unmute. Exactly. All right.
All right. Hey, I'm good now. Yeah. Well, I mean, in my very unsophisticated realm of my understanding, there was a stretch when I was in junior college where I felt like really sick to my stomach. And then I was like, well, this is really annoying. Every time I ate or did a workout, I would feel nauseated. So then I thought in my head, what have I been eating? And yes, Christian was right. It was pizza. Not DiGiorno. Don't disgrace me. Tombstone pizza, pepperoni pizza. But primarily everything I ate other than canned tuna was frozen. Frozen pizzas, frozen meals, noodles, and I really wasn't intaking anything fresh or alive at all. So then I was like, you know what? This could be it. So I started eating more vegetables. I don't like vegetables, but I eat vegetables because you're supposed to. I don't like broccoli. I don't like asparagus. I don't like carrots, but I eat them because you're supposed to. And when I made that turn, just that little bit of a switch of I'm going to stop eating so much fake food and eat more stuff that's alive and stuff that in the produce section, I felt insurmountably better.
Right.
Just on a daily basis.
Yep. Yeah, it's I'm gonna tell you another thing about this whole presentation. Most of this material that I've acquired over a lot of time from a lot of people and is all stuff that I believe in, and it works for the kid that's playing at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, all the way up to big leaguers. This is a lot of big league stuff, and the major league players are doing this. They just do it better than most. And I will tell you, most of the things we're going to talk about, people do not do well. Players do not do well, especially when we get into the throwing and playing catch stuff that we're going to talk about. It's very important if you're going to be as good as you could be that you have to really take it serious and give it 100%.
Yeah, and Ben, if I could just add, the most important thing for pitchers, especially at elite levels, in the bigs you're throwing every 5 days, in college you're throwing every 7 if you're a starter, is recovery. Three biggest things that impact your recovery is your sleep, your hydration, and your diet, what you're putting into your body. So to think that you can just eat crap and be able to your muscles and your joints and everything to be able to recover properly and throw again in 5 days or 7 days is kind of asinine. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, good. Move on. Next slide there, buddy. Mechanics. So that first quote there again is my kind of description of mechanics, described as a unique, coordinated, repeatable sequence, repeatable being the key word, body movements and muscular forces that have ultimate goal of high velocity and target accuracy. I mean, we could do 20 more presentations on individual points of mechanics and understanding them. We're not going to do that today. Everybody's cut out of a different, whatever. Well, I lost the word there that I was looking for.
Yeah.
But everybody's different. And mechanics, there are things that I'm going to point on. The land foot is important, and we're going to talk a little bit about stability. Those are important things in commanding your body. Understand your mechanics. Get with your coach, especially at the higher levels. The coaches, when you do have a pitching coach that can really understand, we're not talking about dropping your arm or driving off your back leg or drop and drive or balance point stuff. We're talking about in-depth understanding of mechanics that will allow you to maximize your arm speed, stabilize the best way, and create the most velocity and spin rate on your baseball. That's what we're trying to do without extreme effort. You don't have to throw it 100% to maximize your velocity. Repeatable mechanics. We're going to talk a lot about that throughout this, and how to get mechanical and keep repeatable mechanics. Zach, do you have anything that you've done for this?
Yeah, well, I would just like to commend you for your definition. If you just do exactly what a coach tells you to do like a robot, you don't understand pitching at all. It's so individual. And the reason why guys get recruited, the reason I got recruited, the reason that guys go to big leagues is because they are all unique to what they can do. If everybody just tried to do the same thing, everybody would throw a flat 94 forcing. But the arm slot, the angles, the hip and shoulder separation, how late you are when you open coming down the mound, how early you open, all affects how your ball moves. There are fundamentals to pitching, but the best pitching coaches I've had don't teach mechanics. They teach you to understand how to throw a baseball, and they teach you how you can throw a baseball the best that you can. But if you don't understand the fundamentals of pitching, you can't intuitively teach yourself. You just do what someone tells you to do.
Great. Yep. Yeah. So pitching, we're going to talk about the difference in pitching and throwing as well. I'm glad you brought that up. Pitching is what we do on the mound. We don't pitch off the mound. We throw off the mound, and those throwing days we use to better our mechanics, and we're using variables. We're throwing on flat ground. Sometimes we're throwing on rocks. Sometimes we're throwing with holes. We're using variations that will challenge us to have better mechanics and better stabilization. I'm showing you a bunch of guys here on the mound. Mechanics, we can break every one of them down. There's nothing really any one of them doing right at that point that's relevant. Lincecum really is an extreme guy down at the bottom middle there on how far he got down the mound and the explosiveness that he created off his front side landing. And the torque off his front leg, which was extreme, and able to do it with a tiny frame. And then you got the guy on the bottom right there with Nolan Ryan, who's the ultimate, and someone that I look Nolan Ryan and Roger Clemens, who I look to, even Sandy Koufax, is having perfect mechanics. If I was going to teach a baby when he was 1 year old, okay, we're going to make you into a pitcher. This is what I want you to do. These are guys that are going to be able to throw at an elite level and stay healthy for the entire career into their 40s. It's odd, but a lot of these other guys, there's so many different things. Go ahead to the next one.
Yeah, and if I can add there, Ben.
Absolutely.
This is from a hitting perspective, but it applies to pitching too. I think I probably shared this before, but the most valuable thing coach ever said to me, and I'll probably remember this till I die, is one off season, I'm home for Christmas break, trying to figure out my swing, because I didn't have anything figured out. And I'm sending my coach a video of Mike Trout saying, what do you think of this, blah, blah, blah. He said, dude, stop trying to be Mike Trout and just be the best Christian Helser you can be, right? So, sure, we can pick up little things from big leaguers. They're there for a reason because they're the best in the world. But you're not going to get there trying to be Bronson Arroyo or Nolan Ryan, right? You're going to get there being the best you. So learn your body the best. Don't try to learn somebody else's. Absolutely.
And, with a pitching coach, we'll pick up maybe something in your delivery that we can optimize, or maybe it'll allow you to maximize velocity better or keep you safer and healthier. Some things that might break you down quicker if you continue to do them. Remember this, that once you get to that 13, 14, 15-year-old age, bad habits require an extreme amount of effort to break. We're talking 3, 4, 5,000 repetitions done properly without interference of a bad rep to correct them. It's a lot. So we want to build them at a young age properly, and that's key. So stabilization, I'm not going to talk a ton about, but this is essentially, it's everything. If you're not stable and you're not balanced on the mound, you're not going to have command consistently. And, I could go back and show you pictures of Mitch Williams falling off the mound and onto his glove hand. Mitch Williams had a great arm and could throw the ball. But he wasn't, stabilization. He might have been able to take a little off of that, save his arm, be a better pitcher, and he probably would have thrown just as hard. But it requires you to command your body. To command your body on the mound, you must have strength, endurance, flexibility. I'm not going to get into how you get that. That's what we have so many other guys in our organization to do. Talk about strength. One thing we don't talk about a lot is endurance. We're going to talk a little bit about that at the end. And flexibility. I think we could do a better job at stretching with intent, whether it's dynamic, static, doing bands, whatever we're doing to get ready, and strengthening our body. And year-round conditioning is a must. You need to understand how to condition off-season versus in-season. You guys got anything to add there?
Not at all.
You're right on. And don't tell them who this pitcher is. I want to see what players know.
That's me. Well, anybody guess yet? We don't have everybody on speaker, but that's my all-time favorite pitcher. We got a chat here. Who guessed? Yeah, we got that. Anthony Tadano. Who didn't know that?
Of course he did.
Of course he would know that. Sandy Koufax, guys. One of the all-time greats, left-handed all-time greats from the Dodgers. And really what I showed here is I talk about throwing inside the box and staying within inside the box. And if you draw a box up his left side, down his right side, over his head, he's going to, any motion you have outside those boxes, and I'm talking about body, not your arm or your leg in your delivery, we're taken away from optimizing the laws of physics and what happened in the delivery. But, and go ahead to the next one, even better. You got, look at everybody knows that's Greg Maddux, who I believe is the best pitcher that I've ever seen pitch. He didn't have the best stuff by any stretch. Pedro Martinez had the best stuff that I've ever seen. Not Nolan Ryan, not Roger Clemens, Pedro, but this guy was the best pitcher. And it's definitely, I believe, in my lifetime. He was able to do it. The ball didn't have to throw it. But look at these guys. If you're not finding yourself in these positions, you're taken away from your ultimate or your maximum ability to throw the baseball with one velocity, with two maximum spin at whatever arm angle you're throwing, and durability. These guys didn't get hurt. So.
Yeah, I would like to add just real quick on all three pictures that we saw. You can see the direction that they're going is right to the plate. That ball is going over the plate, 100%. So whenever guys are struggling with command, if you broke them down, they wouldn't be in those positions, just like you said.
Yeah, and go back one time, Christian, please. I talk about front foot, and I don't care about landing on your heel, landing on your toe, landing flat foot. It's when does your leg become firmed up is what's relevant. If you're sticking your front leg out there and you have the front flying gait and you're reaching out, if you're reaching to land on your front leg and your heel hits, it's going to be rigid and it's not going to allow you to get through. But if you land on your heel and you go heel toe, it's going to be fine. These guys look, it's perfectly flat. It's relaxed. Their front leg is bent. It's receiving the energy and ready to firm up when they explode through it. But the front foot, a lot of college coaches will tell you, they could tell a lot by a guy and what he's going to do and what he's going to be by looking at the front foot. How, is their front foot landing shut and spinning when they land? That's a rotational problem. in an issue. You're not landing shut. You're landing, and there's nothing wrong with throwing across your body. Obviously, we want to open up. We have a lot of guys that have tons of success, even in the big leagues, throwing across your body. But understanding that you're not going to, that's not the maximum ability that you could actually throw the baseball. Jake Arrieta did it with a lot of success. Once he got away from Baltimore and got into Chicago, he crossed his body quite a bit. Accomplish your goals. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but first, I'm going to go down to the third point there. You got to have goals. Understand what those goals are and visualize the end product. This is my favorite here because if you want to be a big league player, take a picture of what that big league player looks like in that picture and make strides to be that player. Don't worry about the path. We've seen guys like Zach and the guys that were on last night, Richie, and so many guys that took a rough road. They didn't get the Vanderbilt commits coming out of high school, and they weren't. Don't worry about what happens. Keep making progress to that goal, that picture of what you want to be, and don't worry about the path in the middle. Mental toughness. You have to be able to work through the hard times, like right now. On the mound in a difficult situation where you just walked two batters and you thought you had them both struck out because the umpire squeezed you. How do we work through these? Stay focused on the path, not others' path. I don't want you to worry about what others are doing. Who's getting committed the committing thing, the college recruiting thing is crazy for me. I really like to relax and let things happen as they will, but we're forced to push the issue with a lot of these players, and because they're recruiting earlier and earlier. Don't be discouraged. Your time's going to come. If you're playing in this organization, you are going to have a great chance of playing college baseball, and probably at the highest level that your potential will allow you. And even then, that potential can move on. You could play pro ball from any level, junior college, NAIA, which I played in both. I turned down 3 SEC schools to play in an NAIA school. I played 2 years in JUCO, 1 in an NAIA school, and I played with 16 players that played professional baseball in those 3 years. So it's a different age back then, but anything can happen. Coach K down at Naval Academy. If you want to know if you want to know the truth, look at the man in the mirror. He'll never lie to you. So don't tell your parents that you're doing things. Just do them and look yourself in the mirror and say, did I do everything I could be to do today to be the best pitcher I can be or the best player I can be? Okay, this is where I really wanted to talk. This is really about pitching. The little bit we talked about prior is about preparing for all of these things. We could talk about changing speeds. Changing speeds to a lot of you guys at this level is it's not about varying the speed off of from fastball to changeup or fastball to curveball. That's not changing speeds. Changing speeds is understanding how to vary the speeds of each pitch. If I got a guy that's sitting on a fastball, am I going to throw him a curveball? Maybe, if he can't hit it. But if he owns my fastball and if he's sitting on my fastball, I might get him out a lot easier if I take 3 miles an hour off my fastball and throw a 2-seamer and let it run. Learn to pitch to contact. This is what pitching is all about. Have a plan. We're not trying to throw the ball down the middle of the plate. In fact, I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But we're going to talk about varying the speeds of each pitch, varying your arm slot for each pitch, tiny bit. How to hold pitches, we'll talk about in another time. But understanding how to change speeds is not necessarily about fastball to changeup or fastball to curveball. Mm-hmm. Zach, you got anything for that, Christian?
I do. I'm cutting Zach off.
Sure, go for it.
Go first, right?
Sure.
I hate it. Well, probably my least favorite thing to face was a guy that was changing speeds of his fastball, and not just 4-seam, 2-seam, but yeah, and like all the time. There certain pitchers would do this. I remember one specific instance in summer ball. 91 mile per hour fastball, fouled it off. We end up getting to like a I don't know, 2-1 or 3-1. Throws me another fastball. I swing through it. I look up at the scoreboard and it was 86, but it was another 4-seam fastball. And I'm like, you jerk. Just throw me the same speed, please. But with that being said, you can't throw an 86 mile per hour fastball over the middle of the plate and expect good things to happen, right? It's all about location when you do that, but it's extremely effective, and good pitchers do that a lot.
Yeah, Zach.
Just so guys that want to be power pitchers, they'll throw at a young age 88 mile an hour fastball, an 84, 85 mile an hour slider, and an 83 mile an hour changeup. And that's how I was. I was sitting 89, 90 with my fastball, and I was throwing my slider 83, 84, and guys were missing my fastball and staying on my slider because everything was relatively like the same speed. But the ability to take a real difference between your fastball and your off-speed pitches, and to be able to throw the same fastball, just like Christian said, at different speeds, as we call it in the pitching community, a plus and a minus fastball. Throw a plus fastball, throw a minus fastball. It's a 2-3 mile an hour difference that makes the biggest difference in the world. But you have to understand that, especially I feel, because I didn't have any dominant pitches. I was a fastball guy. The difference between your fastball and your off-speed pitches, if you're not or if you're trying to be a power guy or not trying to be a power guy, it makes a difference, because guys were missing my fastball and staying on my slider because they could pick it up, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, Sandy Koufax said, I don't know how to quote it, but he said something like he didn't become a great pitcher until he learned he stopped trying to make him miss it and tried to make him hit it. And that's pitching. When you can make a guy hit a ball on the ground, and it's not that hard to do if you can command your pitches. We're going to get into that in a minute. But I call it a batting practice fastball. You got a guy that's up there, just go through. You can slow everything down, tempo and everything. You can go and throw a 75% fastball, and everybody looks 75%, and you will get a guy out with that. They're not sitting on it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll agree. Everyone always worries about strikeouts, but I feel like the order you get, you just want guys to put the ball in play.
I unfortunately didn't. I was a strikeout power pitcher, and I didn't learn to pitch until I was in my 5th year of pro ball. I started to learn how to pitch, but it was too late.
But yeah, first pitch ground ball. Oh my gosh, best ever.
I never had the 10th pitch inning was like Christmas for me.
Well, that's my job, so.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah. The way you talk about your pitching, I picture you like Wild Thing for Major League.
Yeah, I was, and I had good stuff. I started, I middle relieved, I was a stopper, closer at times, left-handed specialist. I did everything in my pro career, and I never really struggled at it. I could throw every day, never had a sore arm. It didn't matter. I just didn't have the command or the mental awareness to try to get it. Didn't work. So we could talk about that another day if we want to talk about careers and the paths you take and the decisions you make, which I'd love to discuss at one time. But one of the other things two things that I'm not talking about in elements that I'm just going to touch on here is fielding. Obviously, is an element of pitching. Don't forget about fielding your position. You get yourself out of a lot of tough innings. Not only fielding the ground balls or bunts and making good throws, is where to be, where to back up, when to be there, how to be there.
How many Gold Gloves did Greg Maddux win as a pitcher?
It's about every year, I think.
Yeah, and he wasn't a strikeout pitcher. He knew exactly what kind of pitcher he was, and because he was getting weak contact, he had to be able to field his position, and that's why he's one of the greatest pitchers of all time. He knew exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So. The other thing we talked about just a second ago is command. I'm not going to talk about that because it could be its own. Command it's an element of pitching in itself. It's not about throwing strikes, guys. Command is not throwing strikes. In fact, my ball ran a lot. I had a lot of heavy movement, like from my fastball, my four-seamer slider. I tried to throw everything off the middle of the plate, not off, or I'll say from the middle of the plate. I wasn't trying to hit corners because I didn't really have to. I didn't give up a lot of hits. My problem was I wasn't able to execute that as much. I was well under a hit an inning through my career. I'm sorry. I had over 350 professional innings. I gave up 7 home runs, 7 in 350 innings. So I wanted to be able to pitch from the middle of the plate. And command is the ability to execute a pitch with a purpose. If it's off the plate or it's high out of the zone or it's a ball back foot slider, it's not a ball to me. It's an executed pitch. And you have to look at it that way. You have to understand what you tried to do. If you're just trying to throw it over the plate and hope to get it around the plate, you're going to throw a lot of competitive pitches, but you're never going to have success because your pitches that you're trying to get in or out on a hitter, or they're going to be misses, and they're going to get hit more often than not, and you're not going to get a lot of strikes called for you. I wanted to say a few more things about command. We talk as coaches. I've been guilty. Tell my pitcher to throw strikes. That's the worst thing that we could do as a coach is tell a kid to throw strikes. But if he's out there trying to throw balls, then I want to get him out of the game. It'd probably be my son because he's mad at me because he's making me pay for something. But we don't want to tell him to throw strikes. And in fact, I can only think of 2 counts, maybe 3, that I'm even trying to throw a strike and just say, okay, I'm trying to throw it down the middle. And that's 0-0 if I know the hitter isn't swinging, and it's 3-0, and I don't want to walk a guy. But I might be 3-0 with a guy on first and second, and I know this guy's digging in, and I might throw him a batting practice fastball with a little run on it, and I'm gonna force contact. I'm not trying to throw a fastball by him there. So understand when to throw it. Command we could talk about for days. I want to get off of it right now, but a fact: less than 49% of the pitches in the major leagues are in the strike zone. Period. Not whether they throw 70% strikes, because they're getting a lot of swings at balls. Why? Because they throw competitive pitches. So instead of thinking that I need to throw strikes, I want you to think throw competitive pitches. Because if I throw a pitch that has potential to be swung at, it at least allows me to set up a pitch off of it. If I throw a pitch that's 4 feet above his head or behind his back, it didn't give him a look. It serves nothing. We want to throw pitches that are competitive all the time. So try to execute in bigger boxes and not be so fine with your command, and you will see more success, especially at this level with the stuff that some of you guys have out there at these young ages. And then as you get older and older, your velocity is not going to matter as much. Your command and your execution is going to matter. Oh, go back to the other slide. We skipped over all those things. Movement. Movement's important. It's more important than location, really, because if I have good movement and I understand movement and my movement's not consistent due to me not wanting it to be, I could pitch off the middle of the plate or from the middle of the plate. I could pitch outer half and inner half and keep the ball on the plate and have good movement. If I understand the sequence, the hitter, and where my fielders are playing and what do I want to do with it, I can utilize movement to get guys out. Again, if I throw a ball that I want to start on the outer half of the plate, and it might start 3-4 inches off the outside part of the plate to a right-handed hitter, and I'm a lefty, and that ball's diving down, and it ends up below his knees and an inch off the plate. It's an out if he swings at it. He might get lucky and foul it off, but he's going to if he swings at that, it's an out, and that's what I want to create with movement. You could create variations on your breaking ball. I've seen some nasty, hellacious breaking balls from the players that we play through through US Elite, but they're the same every time. We want to vary them. We want them to be different every time. Not every time, but there's a different pitch that I'm going to throw over the plate for strike one to get ahead than I'm going to throw to the back foot. I'm going to throw it at different speeds. Zach, you probably have a ton to talk about movement because you were a guy that utilized it, I know, watching you throw a little bit.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, and I'm sure you can relate, getting that same sink and same run on a glove side fastball. So for instance, I'm right-handed. That's me throwing the ball to the on the outer half of the plate to a right-handed hitter and still having movement. When you learn how to do that, it just all goes back to what we've talked about: understanding pitching, understanding your body. There's no reason at all why your ball should flatten out. If you're throwing it the correct way on glove side, you're just cutting yourself off.
Yeah.
So that was huge for me, learning to use my movement. The more movement you have, let's be honest, the less precise you have to be, because it's not a flat fastball. It's harder to track, so you have more margin for error.
There you
If you have movement, you don't really need to worry about velocity. You
So-
just need to worry about understanding your movement.
Yeah, and we could teach that, and we will create it. And I'm going to show you ways to do that here in future in the slide. And one thing, if we run a little over, Christian said it's okay, but we will stay on, Zach and I and Christian, to take questions if you have them as well. Put them in the chat.
If I can add something there as well.
Yes, absolutely.
I did pitch in college. I don't know if many people know that. I just didn't pitch much because I threw so hard my elbow couldn't take it. So I had
88.
97. Now, but anyway, when I'm teaching pitching, I'm talking pitching, and I ask a kid to throw an arm side two seam in a bullpen or something, and I say, "All right, where are you throwing this?" He's like, "Well, I'm throwing it inside to a righty." I'm like, no.
Yeah, good luck.
You have to know exactly what you want this ball to do. You have to know where you want it to start and where you want it to finish. It has to be specific, because once you start doing that and you start being specific with what you're trying to do with every single pitch, now you can match up that feeling, what you felt throughout your mechanics, what you felt throughout your release, match it up with what the ball's doing. That's how you start learning. You can't just throw. Oh my gosh, you see how much my ball moved that time? Okay, repeat it. You can't. It doesn't matter then. Who cares how much
Yeah.
you repeat it, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and one last thing on movement. Pitch off of what you have. Don't try to create movement. I mean, if you're a power pitcher, fastball, over the top, four-seamer, you live with that. You can create movement off of that pitch, but don't try to force it. Don't try to say, okay, I'm going to throw a two-seamer now, and I want it to run 4 feet. Yeah, right, Zach. He'll break his arm. I want that ball to move an inch. An inch is enough because it's getting it off the barrel. It's changing the eyesight. But work with what you have. Don't try to create something that you don't, because especially on the mound, if you try to mess with a pitch, you're not going to have any success. It's not going to be a competitive pitch. And I mean, throwing, and I'll tell you about movement too. One thing that you could do, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this stuff, is throw soft. When you throw soft toss or you're playing catch at 60 feet, it doesn't have to be darts. Go through your entire delivery and throw the ball soft. And I'm talking at 50%. Guys can't do it. You'll see, I guarantee you we could take 60% of the pitchers in U.S. Elite and go out and tell them to throw BP, and they're going to struggle because they don't have the feel, understanding the feel and the mechanics that create the feel and allow you to just throw consistent BP. BP is all fingertips. It's all feel, and it's all how you're going to utilize it. Right there, the next one is feel, and Christian talked about it, and Zach. It's going to give you instant feedback. If you're not getting instant feedback off a throw, you're not thinking. You're not even. You're not playing catch properly. You should be getting instant feedback off everything. We're going to talk more about playing catch here shortly. Pedro Martinez, who I think is one of the greatest pitchers of this era, or the last era, whenever he pitched, he had fingers that were probably an inch longer than mine, and he talked about this on the MLB Network. He said, taste the ball with your fingertips. If that makes sense to you and you can understand what that means, now you're gaining on it, because I know that when I throw BP, I'm tasting the ball with my fingertips. Mound presence. We don't have to talk a lot about this, but we're competing out there, man. This is your inner arrogance. You need to be the man on the mound. You don't need to be the Mad Hungarian. Go look them up, guys. The Mad Hungarian, Al Hrabowski. You don't need to be the wild thing who's turning around, has his hair cut crazy, but you need to be confident and you need to be competing. If you're not competing, What are you doing on the mound? You're certainly not pitching, you're throwing. And that happens a lot more than you think at the pre-college level. The guys are out there throwing. Why? Because they can get away with it. They throw the ball hard enough to play for US Elite or all these other top organizations. They don't have to pitch, and then they get to college and they're still throwers, and they don't have mound presence, and then all of a sudden their poise is gone. They're showing bad body language, and they're struggling, and they're probably not long on the mound. But we can move along here unless you guys have something there.
I just remember when I was a junior, I went to the Perfect Game National Showcase. A lot of guys. It's my first time ever really seeing consistently guys throwing 90. And after I faced a couple guys, in the low 90s, I was like, I can hit these guys. It's not that crazy. And then it kind of hit me like, well, if this kid who's 16 is throwing 92 and they're big leaguers throwing 92, there must be a little something going on there. There's a big difference between those guys. It's not just velocity. It's mound presence. It's their knowledge of how to get their ball to move and 35 different things. But it's not just velocity. It's a lot more than that, and a lot of that is mentality and in your mound presence. Exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I can guarantee you there aren't many big leaguers that think they're going to throw the ball by anybody. They try, but they're throwing over 100. Guys throwing 97 aren't trying to hump up and throw them by you unless they set it up. But we'll go to velocity right there. In professional baseball, there wasn't a guy that I played with that didn't throw hard enough to pitch in the big leagues. In fact, I played as long as I did because I threw hard. But in professional baseball, everybody throws hard enough to play in the show. However, without the ability to have effective velocity and understand effective velocity, the ability to command a baseball, you end up with a shortened career. Velocity is not about peak numbers, guys. I know that's what we're chasing. I'm not about chasing velocity, but I know it's important. It's getting you looks. It's getting you recruited. But that velocity number, when you hit the college pavement, it's got to be gone out of your head. Because if you're still worried about, I hit 92, when you hit the mound in college, you're not going to be pitching much. You need to get guys out at that level. So,
yeah, if I can chime in real quick, the most impressive thing in the dugout when you're watching, especially starters, just as a pitcher, I don't care who we're playing. Yes, I want to win, but I love watching pitchers. The most impressive thing is when these starters can maintain the same velocity the entire game. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm a reliever, so I don't know how they could do that. I go out to second inning, but these guys that maintain that 89, 90, if a guy's going 89 to 93 to 87, it's not impressive at all. If he's sitting 91 every pitch, I'm like, this guy's good.
Yeah, and it happens less now than it used to. I think it has a lot to do with endurance. I know guys aren't running as much. There's a lot to be said about running, pros and cons. But we'll talk about effort poise there, Zach. That was a great segue to the first one. These don't tie together great, but they do with me, because if you don't have poise, you're not understanding your effort. If you're out there just humping up trying to throw the ball by something, you don't understand poise and how to handle yourself on the mound. It's not all about how you handle yourself when something bad happens. It's how you handle yourself every pitch with the stuff that you have. Effort is the element that oils the engine. If you're grinding every pitch and you're throwing with max effort, one, you're not going to throw your max velocity. You need to be relaxed. A lot of things need to be in sync. We talked about the mechanics in sync. Rhythm and tempo are very relevant in your delivery. The more effort you have in poor effort, and you start getting these big muscles involved in your delivery, you start really slowing yourself down and losing the ability to create arm speed. Playing catch, we will do a segment on that another day, because actually we're going to talk a little bit about playing catch, but playing catch is so important. I see so many guys not do it properly, and not just pitchers, but every throw that you make is an opportunity to get better and create something, create feel, create a tendency positive. So, I mean, if I see guys throwing balls all over the yard out there playing catch, or throwing
the worst.
Yeah, there's playing catch is your opportunity to get better as a pitcher. And when do you pitch? We said it earlier. You pitch when you're on the mound. So if you can't play catch properly, and I'm watching you as a college coach and you're throwing the ball over the yard, I don't even want to see a pitch. I don't really care how hard you can throw, unless you're throwing the elite level velocities. And we've seen Blaze Grove. I don't know Blaze personally, but I know some guys that do. Blaze Grove is 15 years old, throwing in the mid 90s. And I watched him on TV throw 17 out of 18 pitches, nowhere near the catcher. The next year, he's throwing 82, trying to learn how to pitch again. Still has a great upside, and probably will. He's going to South Carolina and has a huge upside. But there's a lot to be said. Don't chase velocity. I know it's important, and you can gain it 2.5 to 3 miles an hour a year if you do things properly without chasing it. But playing catch is important, and we can go into great depth just talking about playing catch, and it's important for pitchers. We can come back to these guys if you want questions. If you have questions, we'll stay on and answer them. Throwing development is essentially playing catch. Throw with intent. And again, I said that if you should have good balance, good direction, control your body, proper finish. And I'm out there trying to taste the ball at my fingertips. If I'm doing that, yeah, one might get away from me once in a while, but my ball is going to come out of my hand with life and movement, and it's going to be hitting guys in the chest. And you should be able to do this out to 150 feet. And as you get older, we'll say stay within yourself, command your body again, command. Your delivery should be rhythmic and relaxed during your throwing. You shouldn't be I don't have a problem with the pull downs and the throwing the ball as far as you can, 110 yards. I used to do it. I love to do it. But once you get outside 150 feet, 180 feet, I want you throwing the baseball with a shortened stretch delivery, and we should be able to command a baseball. Once you get out there, outside that, you're starting to break down in your mechanics to get the ball that far. Because you're not going to throw, I don't care if you throw the ball 95, from 180 feet, if you throw it chest high, it's not going to get there in the air. It's going to bounce. But we want to play catch in the air, soft toss, elongate your delivery, and really focus on the release point and the command of your body. Play catch with different grips. You could play catch at 70 feet with a slider grip. You could play catch with it. I would go back 90 and 120. You could throw the changeup grip. Always throw changeups. I like to end with 10 changeups when I throw with Ben. His last 10 pitches or throws, we're going to talk about throwing because they're not pitches, they're not on a mound. We're throwing 10 changeups. And if you do this every time, guys, you're really going to get better fast. But if you do this one day because I told you to or your coach told you to, and again, you could do any variations of any of these things we're talking about. And you go out there with your buddies and you're tossing it around, wasting time, and all of a sudden, okay, let's go infield. We're doing IO now, and you're not properly loose, or because a lot of you guys play other positions. You wasted it. You're not going to get better, and you're not going to get better by pitching. I can tell you that. You can step on the ball and compete. You're not going to get better by going out there and competing. Your ability will get you through to a certain point, but then you're going to have to get better off the field. That's
the Bible right there.
Yeah. Jim Bibby, he was on that screen, a friend of mine. I know him from baseball. He pitched for the Pirates in the big leagues for a long time, but he was coaching when I was a player. And the one thing that a pitcher should do all the time is throw. And he even said, I want guys that want to throw the baseball. Not toss it around and screw around. I want guys that love to throw the baseball, because if you're throwing the baseball, you're getting better at it if you're doing it with intent. We're going to go number of throws, increase or decrease your number of throws based on how you feel, your health, whether it's for usage or purpose. Vary. I'm going to give you some examples of throwing programs, in season, off season, throwing programs that you could tailor to however you want them. But we don't want to throw a number of pitches. I want you to throw as many as you need to throw to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish that day. I don't like to hear, I got one more, or I want to end on a good one. Okay, well, focus all the way through to the end and make them all good, or at least with intent. You're going to gain on that. And take pride in your throwing. Guys, I see a guy that wants to walk out and be the stud, and he's throwing, just tossing, throwing the ball around, and he's wasting his time. Guys, put your ego aside and go out and work. If you really want this, I know a lot of you guys in the U.S. League program are high-level players, are going to go a long way. There's a lot of guys that are likely going to play in pro ball. It's not cool to look cool. It's cool to be good. Zach will tell you, Christian, there was nothing better in my lifetime than standing on the mound and throwing a ball by somebody as hard as I could. And that's how I threw as hard as I could. I wish I had somebody teaching me this stuff.
I can't relate.
No, and be meticulous. Meticulous in your drill work. There's not a ton of drills. There's probably 2 or 3 drills that each one of you can utilize to make yourself better. Be meticulous. Don't be satisfied with going through the motions, because one of my favorite drills is a rocker drill, because you can work so many things into it. I'm not going to show you how to do it. I know a lot of you guys know how, but a rocker drill, there's so many portions of that move that are relevant in your stability and command. And you could throw the ball with some velocity and work on your feel. So toe tap drill is another one. I could show you these guys, and maybe we'll do some videos. We'll take some videos and show them to you guys. Christian, you might even have them from the past if you had little segments. But we did these up at Iron Horse: toe tap, knee drill, wall drill. Hershiser drill is a great one just for leading with that front pocket and getting into a good position. Go ahead. Zach, you have anything here, or Christian?
Nope.
Be meticulous, care about it. It should be who you are, not what you do.
Yeah, so big. Guys, you can come back and look at, I guess you'll have this posted, Christian. You can look at this. Yep. Or take a picture of the screen if you'd like. This is a major league in-season throwing program for a starter. I mean, it's that basic. And the reason that I took this and used it, and I didn't change anything from this, because this is exactly what I used to do 30 years ago when I started, almost identical, is this can be used and tailored slightly for you guys that are playing every weekend. The 7-day starter. You can have another day, an extra day of rest in there, but really, we never rested. I was throwing the next day. If I threw, I don't care how many pitches I threw, and we didn't count pitches the same way back when I played. But I can tell you this, I never in my career, other than tendonitis from throwing a slider poorly because nobody showed me how, I never had arm trouble until 5 years after my pro career. So, and I threw every day, and almost all the time I threw the ball hard. And I believe that's how I got my arm strong. Not by throwing weighted balls. There's something to be said about that, pros and cons. I'm not going to get into that or have my opinion on this webinar, but we could talk later. But there's something to be said about chasing velocity. But the in-season throwing program is this simple. You guys could take a picture of it and vary it. If you want help varying it, I'd be happy to. I'm sure Zach could help you. Micah Owens, I'm sure you could reach out to him if you had questions, and I'm sure he had something very similar to this. Pull downs or the shadow. I've never seen a kid. Yeah, I actually have. I've seen a couple kids in the U.S. League program do shadows, do a shadow pen. Just working on the feeling your body, commanding your body. Get on the mound. Okay, I'm not going to throw a pen today, but I'm going to get on the mound and really work on the mechanics. I'm going to work on my motion. So that's what a shadow is, in case you're questioning it.
We do those all the time. While you're waiting for the person that you're behind throwing your bullpen, we have 3 mounds. If you're not on that other mound doing like a shadow and getting mentally prepared for your bullpen, someone's going to say something to you because you should be doing it.
Yeah, and this is coming from a young man that's a senior in college. And I did these in 1987 and 1988 in professional baseball. So, guys, everything that we're talking about relates to any player at any level. Go ahead and go on. Warming up. Again, this goes back, and I'm just pounding this in your head, this should be a routine, and it should be something that you do with intent. I'm not going to get into how you should warm up, you get to the highest level, or even in college, you can have the therapist there. You can get, before if I was a starter, I had a massage guy doing a deep tissue massage in my leg and my in my shoulder. I would in my lat. I would get worked over however I needed to be worked over. I would go out and do the exercises that I had lined up, but I had a routine. And you must take it seriously. Go out pre-game to a big league game and get as close to the field as you can and watch the pitcher come out and go through his routine. It's the same every single time he does it. Dynamic stretching, obviously we need to do those. Static stretching, some people like them, some people don't. I loved static stretching. Why? Because it made me feel good. Did it make me better? Did it prevent injury? I don't know. I have no idea. But I loved certain stretches that I don't see anyone doing anymore. Arm stretches that are static or leg stretches that are static. There's no right or wrong here, guys, especially in the stretching. Obviously, we need dynamic stretching to get the blood flowing and get the heart rate up and get the motor running. But again, running is another one. I think most of the major leaguers still run. I know they do in big league camps still. Everybody ran when I played, and there's a lot of people going away from running now because they say training as a runner is bad for you, or swimming, or I don't know the details about that, but to me it doesn't make any sense because endurance is very important. I'm not training my son to be a sprinter or a long distance runner on the track team. I'm getting him to end his day, flush everything out, and get a good run in to feel good. If it makes you feel good, it's helping you. Zach, did you run in college much?
So at Liberty, we did conditioning for mental toughness, not necessarily for pitching. But here we don't run to condition. We run because it does certain things to your body. I'll give you, for instance, on game days, some game days, we would run 2 or 3 sprints just to give our bodies that jump. We weren't conditioning our bodies to run really far or really, really fast necessarily. We were just trying to do something to our central nervous system by running some sprints.
Great. All right, guys, I appreciate, almost 100% of you are still on. It's awesome. We're getting near the end here. I'm going to get through. This is an off-season throwing program, guys. This is a big league off. This is essentially what the Baltimore Orioles use. This off-season throwing program I have on 2 pages here will go up to 90 days. So a 90-day throwing program. Obviously, at your level, you're not going to throw a 90-day throwing program to prepare to go into the big league season, because that would include spring training. Obviously, we're not throwing 3 months to get ready for the season. But you could tailor this down and excel through it in a 30-day program. We don't need to be throwing baseball off a mound or at all really in November. You don't need November, December, January to get ready. I know a lot of you guys like to go to camps in December, go to camps in January. I don't know what to tell you there because some of you need to go to those and they're relevant at times. But me personally, my son won't be going to a camp in January or December because he's not going to be prepared to go compete in those months. Go ahead, Christian, another page. You have to have 2 months off of throwing completely. I believe that, and even sometimes up to 3. So we make it difficult for you because we go into October, you get November, and everybody wants to rush out there because I'm behind to be throwing by middle of December. You don't need to. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be rushing that. But I'm going to rush through this. Christian and Zach, please jump in if you have anything to add. But this is an important thing I wanted to talk about. It's bullpen routines, repeatable delivery, work on field, create your own throwing program. Everybody's different. Have your own throwing program. There's no right or wrong, guys. It's what you need, what makes you feel better, what's going to make you more successful. Focus on the pitching elements. We talked about them. You can go back and look at them. Have an idea. You have to have a routine and work on your strengths and weaknesses. Okay. Don't go in a bullpen and throw. I'm throwing a 25 pitch pen without an idea. Go to the next slide here and I'll talk more about that. Your bullpen should be scripted. They're broken down essentially into 3 sections. They're scripted. Your scripted portion, you're going to throw, if say we're throwing a 25 pitch pen, we're going to throw our first 20 scripted pitches. They're the same every time. And I even have a scripted pen that is a big league pen. It's a big league pen that Scott Emerson had, and it's essentially what they do. Then you're going to work things to work on. What do you need to work on? You're going to go to that, and then you're going to at the end you're going to react to what your last outing or what your last pen you struggled with. Okay, well, let's go back to that. How was my last outing? Where did I struggle? Did I struggle mentally throwing this pitch, that pitch? And you're going to have an idea. But if you're going on a pen and just getting your 35 throws in, you're throwing, not pitching.
If I could chime in.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have every single day when we come to the field, we have a readiness test. We talk about how we feel, hydration, blah, blah, blah. After your bullpen, after you throw in an inner squad, after you throw any time off the mound competitively, a bullpen is competitive. It should be. It's called a post-pen report. You talk about what you did well. You talk about what you didn't do well. You talk about how you felt. And then at the end of the week, typically during the season as a reliever, I'm throwing at least 2 times, and I'm throwing a bullpen in between that. So I have 3 reports. I go over them with my coach. And let's say that something felt wrong or off 3 outings in a row. He's going to ask me, okay, it wasn't working for you 3 outings in a row. You wrote it down. What did you do to change it? And I'll change it. But if you didn't, you're going to be doing the same wrong thing the entire season.
Absolutely.
And it's little things
Absolutely.
like that matter.
Absolutely. Go ahead on,
Yeah.
Christian. This is a scripted pen. Take a picture of it. Do whatever you want. This is as simple as it gets. And if you look, what am I throwing there the first 20 pitches? Am I throwing any breaking balls? No. What's relevant here? Fastball, changeup, guys. Fastball, changeup. Fastball, changeup are your primaries. If you're a fastball, curveball pitcher, that's fine. But if that's what you are, you need to develop a changeup to really get far in. Unless you're Mariano Rivera, but he wasn't a starter. But your third pitch, ideally, is your breaking ball, not your changeup. Changeup is so effective, and I really want you guys to focus on throwing it a lot. It's a pitch to contact pitch. You're not trying to strike somebody out. It's a 2-0 spot. I'm throwing the changeup in there, getting the ground ball, and trusting it. You could vary. Usually, I go 7-3, 7-3, and I'll switch from wind up and relief. Wind up in the stretch, and you could vary that however you want. But I like to start my first 7 fastballs off and my first changeup from the wind up, or whatever your primary stance is. Some of you will go from the stretch entirely, and that's fine. And then the 15 to 20 pitches left is work on what you need and what you scripted prior to jumping on the bump. So again, we're past time. I am elated that everybody other than 3 people stayed on for the entire time. 10 minutes passed. Christian and Zach, you've added so much great information. I can't wait to spend more time with you guys and learn more. These are topics that we could talk about at another time. I know that I had a couple people reach out to me and talk about pitch counts and how to set up a hitter, and that's a topic we could discuss at another time. But I really felt the need to come out here and talk about the basics of preparing yourself to be a great pitcher, not a thrower. We have so many throwers at this level because we're looking to throw the ball by guys, and you still can at this age. But that time is coming. That the end is coming for your career. To be able to throw the ball by guys is the further you get. The higher you get, your fastball is not that relevant. It is if you could throw it over the plate with movement and command it in and out of the zone. Pitch counts, we could talk about that forever as well, but not just pitch counts and number of throws, period. I like to talk about them as well because we forget about you throwing way more pitches than you actually think on and off pre-game and in the game. Time off needed, 2 months. I believe everybody should be off 2 months throwing the baseball, just throwing. And summer to fall layoff. I have a lot to say about that another day too. I think that you guys really need to focus on the high school, the late May into early June time that you're down. And all of August we typically have off. This year won't be the same way, but in between the summer and fall seasons is very important, guys. If you need help figuring out what you need to do to stay competitive and stay healthy, and prevent injuries, because you guys, you might go throw a pen a week or 2 pens a week. That's not enough. There's a whole process that needs to be done. If you know it, I'm sure Zach can help you. I can help you. Coach Owings can help you. Christian can help you. There's a ton of opportunity out there to get better. But let's see, Christian and Zach, do you guys have anything to close on?
Zach?
This stuff's only pertinent if you care and you actively seek to do it. It can't be one thing that you do once every Saturday. All the stuff we talk about, bullpens and grips and tasting it with your fingers and all this, has to be an everyday thing that you think about and you care about. Otherwise, it won't change your life at all.
Great. Well, we have one question here, only one. That's fine. And you guys could send them out on the hub. If you have topics you want discussed specifically, we could break a session down and talk about 2 different topics, 3 different topics. I know Zach can add a ton, and I'm sure Coach or Micah can. And but our first question here is, what if you throw a knuckleball instead? My opinion of a knuckleball is a knuckleball is going to be your primary. I know guys throw a knuckle curve. That's different. All that is a notch curveball where you're bringing the finger up. Oops, sorry about that. I didn't mean to. His knuckle curve is throwing the ball like this. Yeah, doing without a ball didn't look good. Yeah, we're getting the ball here, and that's allowing us to spike it. It's really forcing us to get on top of it and get the knuckle out in front of it. Throwing a knuckleball, in my opinion, I don't know, Tyler, how old you are. Tyler, to answer the question or ask the question. I don't know how old you are, but a knuckleball is a high-level pitch to throw, and it should be your primary. You're 17. Okay, if you're throwing a knuckleball and it's good for you, there's a place for a knuckleball pitcher, guys. I'm telling you, if you can command that pitch. But if you're throwing your knuckleball 13 to 17% of the time in a game, it's not getting better. You're not really commanding that pitch, and you might get bad hitters out. But as you grow, you're either going to be a fastball pitcher with slider, changeup, curveballs, or you're going to be a knuckleball pitcher at the higher levels.
Yeah. And we have a guest speaker who's now unmuted.
Hey guys.
Mark Helsel.
Mark. Hey, just want to say awesome job to all 3 of you guys tonight. It's fun for me to just sit here and listen to you guys do what you do best, and I'm just so impressed with you guys sharing this information. But I do want to give you an observation or what I'm thinking as I'm watching you guys. I have a friend that's training for the Olympics as an archer, okay? And that guy shoots more than anybody I know because he wants to be an elite level archer. I have another friend, Al Holsizer, that's bowled over 6,300 games. He rolls more balls, I'm sure, than most average people. As I'm listening to you talk, you know what you're really talking about to these kids? Do you really want to be an elite level pitcher? Yeah. Do you take pride in the craft of being a specialist at something? And in this case, a specialist at throwing a baseball. Okay, I don't think a lot of kids think of it. They call it a position. I'm a pitcher. I'm a shortstop. They don't think of it as I'm a specialist in the world at doing something very, very unique, better than almost anybody else on the planet. And that's what you're talking about tonight. If you want to be that, you got to emulate these people that are specialists in all these other things. And that's what my takeaway tonight is. If you want to be great, then understand throwing a baseball is your specialty. That's what you do if you're a great pitcher. Every great pitcher I know, they always have a ball in their hand, and they always are talking and feeling the ball and thinking about how to throw a baseball. That's their skill. That's what they do. Look at Christian. Always have a ball in your hand.
Amen.
So anyway, I didn't want to take any more away, but that's my takeaway of your meeting tonight. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Mark. And one of the reasons I didn't want to come on here and give a whole bunch of talks about mechanics or pitch counts or whatever is because I think we really need to get to the basics and how to get to that point. And I appreciate that.
Cool. I'm going to wrap us up here real quick, guys. Today, literally just today, I had a college coach text me about a specific player on my team. and then asked me about any more guys from specific positions. This is a top-level Division I school. I told him about these kids. I said, hey, I'm going to shoot you over their player profiles. And every single one of my players has an outstanding player profile. They have videos, they have GPA, everything they need on there. Coach texted me back in 10 minutes, said, love what I saw from these guys. Have them call me. All three of them talked to that coach this evening. If you don't have a player profile page and you're in the recruiting age, I don't know what you're doing. Okay. As coaches, we use this every single time we talk to a school. Now, but also you younger guys, for example, I'm coaching our 14U national team at the Perfect Game World Series. I've been talking to some of the coaches. I haven't talked to all of them yet, just about players they're recommending because we're forming that team from our U.S. Elite State teams. I went to look at a couple kids that were recommended to me. No videos, not even any pictures, no stats of anything on there. So I don't know anything about the kid to give him an opportunity to play in the biggest event of the summer. So, guys, get your player profiles done. They're so important. Nobody else in the country has the opportunity to have that, so take advantage of it. Get some videos on there. It can be just you hitting off the tee, throwing a bullpen, anything, but we're using them all the time, especially you recruiting age kids. So I wanted to make sure I threw that in there tonight. So, guys, that was a long but packed full of information. I hope you took something out of it. We recorded it, so I'm going to make sure everybody gets the link to that. But Ben, Zach, Mark, thanks so much for being on, and I will see you guys next week. It was a pleasure. It was awesome.
Awesome, guys. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.